Welcome to Toffee TV. It is the daily live extra, and it's all about Rafa Benitez's press conference this morning. Some interesting things coming out of that, and some interesting transfer developments happening as well this morning and this afternoon regarding players possibly coming in and players going out and players hopefully not going out. Rafa Benitez did say in the press conference that Everton would not be selling Richarlison. Do I take that as a cast iron guarantee that Richarlison will not be leaving Everton? No, because this is football and football managers lie. They lie all the time. They buy time for themselves. They then can move the blame onto somebody else, some faceless person, or onto the player, or whatever they need to do. Everton have a game tomorrow, so at this stage, I'm taking it with a pinch of salt. Put it that way. Regarding the situation with Richarlison, we'll just have to wait and see. There is talk this morning that, or certainly going into this afternoon, that PSG are looking at the possibility of bringing in Haaland from Dortmund as well. But again, if you were Dortmund, why would you sell Haaland at this stage of the transfer window? I don't know. I don't know why anyone would sell a player they didn't want to sell at this stage of the window with only a few days to go. So let me know your thoughts in the comments anyway. Let me know what you think about this. Let me know what you think will happen. There is the possibility that Kean will move to Juventus, with Ronaldo going to Manchester City. It looks like. So it looks like there could be a move for Kean, Kean going that way, which would be good for everyone, I think. That'd be good for everyone, for Moise Kean to go there. A deal that would probably be a loan with a obligation to buy, and I think that would suit everybody probably. I mean, better if we got the money for him straight out, but doesn't look like that would happen, so that one would be the best for everyone. That could free up a little bit of money for Everton to go off the targets. We've been heavily linked with Luis Diaz today, the winger, right-footed winger from Porto, who plays on the left. There's a great cracking goal of him scoring in last year's Champions League against Manchester City. Picks it up on the left, cuts inside, goes all the way over to the right, and puts it in. So that would be an interesting one. But at least they're looking at players. At least they're trying to bring players in. I still think we need that right back massively, but hopefully, maybe if there's a little bit extra money, they'll have got one sounded out. But it's going to be an interesting few days. Let's be honest, it's going to be a very, very interesting few days. The Luis Diaz deal apparently would mean James Rodriguez going the other way as well. So on loan, even though he's only got a year left on his contract, that would probably mean that if it's a loan, that they would just be covering maybe just his wages or part of his wages. So we'll wait and see. As I say, the whole situation is fluid. Everton have got an uncomfortable few days, I think, surrounding the Richarlison situation. Because if you're the player and that bid comes in, and there's no, I mean, listen, the Mbappe deal hasn't been done yet, but if you're the player and you see the possibility of playing with Messi and the possibility of playing with your mate Neymar and playing in the Champions League at what now are a huge club, you're going to jump at that opportunity, aren't you? Let's be honest. With Everton, obviously not in European football this season, so it'll be difficult for the player, but He signed the contract. Look at the Harry Kane situation. Spurs stayed firm. And we'll see, unless Paris Saint-Germain make an absolute ridiculous offer for him, then we'll wait and see. As I said through the week, I thought it would be difficult for it to, time-wise, for it to be done. But money talks in these situations. If you pay with cash, then you've got a fantastic opportunity to get players in quicker. So let's just have a look at some of your comments. Paul McAllister says, I stay in Portugal, I watch Porto, and Diaz has got no end product, trust me. Okay, I have to take your word for that. Scored 4 goals in the Copa America in the summer. Everton must have obviously scouted him and liked the look of him. So Victor says, Brian Oddery from Sassuolo is a shout from Sassuolo in Italy. There, I've never heard of him, I'll be honest. Sean says we need to show some backbone and tell PSG he's not for sale. Yeah, I suppose that's what Everton have done before. They've done that in the past. They've done that with like Chelsea for John Stones. They've held firm. They haven't sold when people thought they were going to sell. Tazul says tell PSG to do one like Spurs did to City. Moz said iPad Gomez off to Benfica ? It has been rumoured, has been mentioned, but again it's whether we could get him out on a deal that's good for us, and also whether we could replace him as well in that time. Gomez is still a decent squad player, so he's a decent squad player, is he? So you're losing a player that we've got to replace in the midfield, in the squad. Let's have a look. Scott says, I think Richie will go, unfortunately. Well, we'll see what happens. See what happens in the next few days. We'll see. Obviously we've got a game tomorrow. Things will ramp up for everyone after the games over the weekend. It's going to be a very quick turnaround for a lot of these deals. Tommy Tucker says might need to throw in Tosin to sweeten the deal, I guess. I don't think Tosin's going anywhere. I don't think his knee has got the facilities for that. Mark D says Moise Kean to Juventus need to get more than we paid for him. We're not going to get more than we paid for him because he hasn't done anything while he's been here. So he's apart from going to Paris Saint-Germain, but there's not enough money. We'll get what we paid for them, I imagine, from Juventus. Scott says they're talking about 50 million for Richie. Are they off the heads? Who's talking about 50 million? I've not heard 50 million mentioned. I've heard more like 80 to 90 million. Watford have got a sell-on clause deal as well, so I think they get around 10%. So it'd have to be 75, 80 million pound for us before we even start talking. James Morgan says, not sure why we need another winger. We are desperate for a right back unless Kean goes and we can afford both. Well, you always want better players, don't you? You are absolutely right. We need a right back first, but you always want better players. Felix Pereira says Diaz is a tricky little pacey winger, exactly what we need. Cheers from Portugal. Cheers, Felix. Jay Evans says Tim Vickery rates Luis Diaz. That's a good sign. It is a good sign. Fruin says we need a winger. Quinn says, how did we miss out on Zuma? Because we weren't going for Zuma. That's how we missed out on him. We do need a right back. Kevin says, Daniel Levy, despite what people think of him, is a ruthless capitalist. I think most people think he's a ruthless capitalist. That's what most people think about him. Wormy Spoon says we're not going to sign a right back and gonna send Nkunku on loan. Well, I mean, number one, we don't know if we're going to sign a right back, and number two, no one said we're going to send Nkunku on loan. But Nkunku could probably do with a loan, if I'm honest. It's just that we wouldn't have a backup left back. Professor Gigi says we need Zuma. Well, he's gone to Watford, so tough. Patrick says if we can get James and Kean out the door, bringing Diaz and a right back, we'll have had a lovely end to the window. Yeah, that wouldn't be a bad end to the window if we could do that. Essentially, two players who the manager doesn't want. Now, whether we like James or not, the manager doesn't like him. So it's as simple as that, really, isn't it? Erico says, dead on Benitez, well done. Harry says, Ped, do you think we could sell Iwobi in the next 2 years? Don't know. I mean, if we sell him in the next 2 years, if we sell him in 2 years, he'd only have a year left on his contract. So we'll have to wait and see. But don't know. Kevin says anything can happen in football and it's silly season. It is silly season. Mark says PSG being linked with Haaland and Pogba, can't see it, or Richarlison at this late stage. Well, money talks. If they get money straight up cash from Real Madrid. Well, they've got cash anyway, but money talks ultimately. Tommy says, if Richie goes it will be Zaha. No, it won't be Zaha. But it will be on Sky Sports. Yeah, you're right. Pay Juve to take Delph. The champion Broad says, who are we going to replace him with? Surely we got someone in. Who are you talking about? Richarlison? Well, the manager's saying that he ain't going anywhere, so even if that's just a smokescreen, they'll be working, won't they, to bring someone in. I really hope that doesn't happen. Thomas says, Ped, Mina or Zuma, if you had the choice alongside Godfrey. Mina, I think he's a better defender. Godfrey's got the pace. I think Mina's a better defender than Zuma. Luke says we shouldn't be selling James. He needs legs around him. Manager doesn't want him, so sell him. Cream Pie says, what's your take on Afghanistan? It's a mess. It's a mess created by the UK and America. Toffee Badger, if Richarlison goes, who would you get to replace him? Nobody. I don't know if there's anyone who could replace him at this stage, as in a like for like. Mark says Nkunku can attack, but he needs to work on his defence. Yeah, but he can't defend. So that's what I'm saying about going out on loan, possibly. But we haven't got a backup left back. Sol says need to get Hammers out the door if Rafa isn't going to favour him. Yeah, because he'll just be sitting on his computer all season playing COD. The pastime says, how come you just dislike the nickname Tony G? Because it's terrible. Because it's absolutely terrible. That's why. Glenn says Leeds should sign Delph as a backup. They should. If he's one of their own, they should take him back and keep him. Kevin says Rafa kept his cards close to his chest regarding which player is playing tomorrow. Why tell the opposition in the yeah, he's done that in every game, hasn't he? Maybe he'll loosen up once the international windows is closed and the window's closed and we come back from international break and stuff. So, but he does like to keep his. He said there's going to be players back tomorrow. I imagine that means Ben Godfrey. We'll have to wait and see, but I imagine that means Ben Godfrey. Olsen says, is Godfrey back in training? He's been back in training all week. I think he went to Huddersfield. He was in the squad, but basically as a backup. But the manager decided against playing him. Mozza says, I like Ocampos if Richarlison leaves. Marcus says Richarlison won't leave. Well, he says he hopes not anyway. Don Robbo says, I imagine the Diaz James swap will happen. I can see Kean leaving, but I think Richarlison be told in a gentleman's agreement that it'll be going next summer if the price is right. Yeah, possibly so. I think that because, you know, you're getting rid of a lot of players all at once there, and you're decimating the squad. And you know we'd need to replace Moise Kean, Richarlison, James Rodriguez in 3 days. I just can't see how that could be accepted by anybody, to be honest. Jake says would love Moussa Diaby from Bayer, by Leverkusen, isn't it? Yeah, he's obviously a very good player, but they've sold a few players this summer, haven't they? One to us, so I'm not sure whether they'd be continuing. Finn says Zakaria has already gone to Roma. That was for June. He said she'd like them. Anguissa, there's a lot of chat about Anguissa, isn't there, on loan? Not really sure why, but there is. Sol says, do you think Ronaldo will join City? I do. I think he will join City now because apparently he said his goodbyes to Juventus, and if he was leaving Juventus, he'd only be on one place, and that is Manchester City. So I imagine that's getting done. It does seem like that it's getting done anyway. Probably get a 2-year deal, maybe more. Maybe get 2 years with City and then 2 years with the City group and go to somewhere like New York City or somewhere like that, or just become an ambassador or something. They've no problem paying him. It'd be a great asset for them in the Champions League and obviously in the Premier League, but mostly being that Champions League winner. Tom says opinions on Damari Gray. Is that Damari Gray? And do you think Diaz would be a good option if we signed him? Well, if that is Damari Gray, I think Damari Gray's had a very good start to his Everton career. He just has to keep it going and find that level of consistency that he hasn't found at other clubs. That means, 7 out of 10 performances, nearly every single game. Yeah, so... Tom says apparently Man United are going to hijack the Ronaldo to City deal. I can't see that happening. Yeah, I can't see that. He's a winner. He wants to be... Man United aren't going to win the Champions League with him. He's just been at a club like Juventus that won't win the Champions League with him. He wants to go somewhere where he's... If he goes to City, he's the number one guy at City, isn't he? So... But who knows? Who knows? As we've all been saying, the last few days are always a little bit mad. David says should try and get to Kean. Kean's gone to West Ham, wasn't he? Sol says, when's the FFP going to kick in with City? It's not, is it? Because they make money. People keep on misunderstanding what FFP is. It's not about what you spend. It's about what you bring in. It's about the money you bring in. Glenn says Hudson-Odoi on loan can play as a right wing back in a back three or as a winger. Well, we need a full back. We need a right back, not a right wing back. We need a right back. Apparently Fab Romano saying Ronaldo's been offered to Man United too. I just can't see him going to Man United because I just don't think... Emotionally, yes, but Ronaldo doesn't strike me as the most emotional person in the world. He strikes me as the kind of player kind of person who just wants to win. And that's fair enough. He's always said Man United are like his club, but he wants to win trophies. And I think going to Manchester City gives them that best opportunity, doesn't it? I know he's got an ego on him, but I don't think his ego's big enough to think that Man United can win the Champions League. And that's what he's after, by the way. He's after Champions Leagues. Yes, winning league titles is good, but he wants Champions Leagues. That's the mark of a legend. Wildlife is watching on their lunch break. Thank you for joining us. Jordan says, I've heard PSG are going for Haaland. Well, I did say that before. Would that affect the Richie transfer? Yeah, because if they bought him, they wouldn't buy Richie. Daniel Wilson says, have you seen the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer comments on Ronaldo just now? No, I'm doing this. So, no, I haven't seen them. If you want to put them in the comments, please do. I haven't seen them. Oh, well, I've actually got them right now. Cristiano Ronaldo, we've always had a good communication. Bruno's been talking to him as well, and he knows what we feel about him. If he's ever going to move away from Juventus, he knows we are here. Well, he's just stirring the pot, isn't he? He's stirring the pot there. He said Cristiano's a legend at the club. He's the greatest player of all time. If you ask me, he's not. I was fortunate to play with him. I coached him when I got a job. My job. Let's see what happens. He's stirring the pot. That's what he's doing. Well, there you go. I mean, he could be Manchester City, he could be Man United, but he's definitely leaving, isn't he? So he's leaving, and that's all that matters to us because, you know, ultimately that's Moise Kean. That's Moise Kean going back to Juventus. Tazul says Rafinha would be a perfect replacement. He would, but you ain't getting him out of Leeds. You ain't leaving Leeds to come and sign for us. He just isn't. He stays at Leeds for this season, does really well. Then he's going to a Champions League club, so he ain't leaving to come to us. Olsen says, I don't know why we aren't considering Weston McKennie. If it's true, because we have Alan the core in midfield with Gabam and backup, and I don't think he starts attacking either. I think we can. So you don't know why? Because he's an attacking midfielder, and we haven't got a lot of goal scoring midfielders. That's why he's been mentioned. I like Weston McKennie. I think he's a great midfielder. Money doesn't talk. We haven't got the money for Rafinha, so money doesn't talk. Money doesn't talk at all if you haven't got it, and we haven't got it. And I make out like we've got all this money when we haven't. Spent 1.7 million this summer or something, haven't we? We haven't got money. So the idea of like money talks is just nonsense. Le Champion Bud says, if we have the replacements for Mbappe and Ronaldo in our squad, why don't we try and keep them? Because they don't work for us. Well, Richarlison does. We don't want him to be the replacement. Let's hope they go after Haaland. Since Leighton Skill says, would you take Rondon, Diaz and Buta if you keep Richie and sell Kean? Has Buta gone? Is he gone or? No, I don't want to sell Richarlison. I keep on saying this. I wouldn't sell Richarlison for 150 million. I really wouldn't. For me, it's not the right time. Next summer's the right time when you can actually line up targets. That's the way I look at it. Anyway, I might be wrong, but I just with only a few days left, you know. Last of the Corinthians says, doesn't mean Moise Kean going to Juve will fund Diaz. It may partly bring the funds in. So there you go. Ross, the reason reason I took your comments off is because I don't like anyone getting bad-mouthed on this channel. So, simple as that. Daniel says, I'm with you, but no need to sell, but we should. What would happen with? But should it happen? What about Maxim from Newcastle? But we wouldn't get him. This is what I'm saying. We wouldn't get him. So it's all great having this. I understand people saying we could go for this person, go for that person. No one else would sell. Newcastle don't want to sell him. And I listen, if Everton could line up a load of deals and they got those deals done and they all were all really, like 3 or 4 really exciting players and they were all done. And then Richarlison deal was done. Then maybe I would think that would be a good idea. But this is Everton and things just don't work like that. So I would just keep Richarlison till next summer. Say next summer. You know, if the offer comes back in for you like it did with Garner, then we'll if it's a good deal, we'll let you go. But we'll have to wait and see. It's gonna be a mad few days. James Palmer says thoughts on Jefferson deal. I don't think there will be a Jefferson deal, to be honest. I think Sheffield United wouldn't want to sell him, not at this stage. But I do like oh my Jesus Christ. Thoughts on a last minute deal for David Luiz? No, because he's absolutely crap and has been for about 3 years. I like the profile of the players we're going for at the moment. The younger players, players we've been linked to are all young up and coming players. I think that's the right way to go. Get players in younger, and then if they progress, then you can sell them on. That's the way to do it. That's definitely the way to do it. Scintillating Sills says David Luiz and Michael Kean would be the most error-prone centre-back partnership of all time. Oh, why would you even consider David Luiz? He's absolutely terrible. The biggest mistake Arteta made was keeping him. Mike in our patron says, good to hear Rafa saying no consideration for Richarlison. Let's hope it's true. Hello, Gary. Keith says, read about how greedy Harry Kane is in the same paper who've been praising him for the last 8 weeks, while his transfer to City was on the line. Ronaldo to City is now flavour of the month. Wow. As for Richarlison, I think EFC made an agreement with him to go to Tokyo to see him stay the season. Can't see him changing their minds. I hope so. But the opportunity for Richarlison is massive if they come in. As for our right-back situation, don't give up on the Rangers lad. Gerrard will be so annoyed if we get him. Interesting stuff. Yeah, it would be. He played last night, didn't he? I think he drew 0-0 in the Europa League, got through to the group stages. They wouldn't want to sell him, obviously. But I heard they're in a little bit of financial problems. Ryan says, would you replace Kean with another striker? Kean and Hammers out the door. We need a right back striker at the very least. Yes, absolutely, but we do need another striker. Terry says, afternoon, providing Richarlison stays, is it not a bit strange that we're buying another left winger? No, I don't think it is, Terry, because the manager has shown that he likes playing 4-4-2. So I think, and Richarlison can play as a central striker as well on his own if there's no Dom. I think the more good players you have, then the better. You see, currently we have Richarlison who can play there, but just Townsend on the right. Yeah, but it's opportunity, isn't it? If an opportunity arises where there's an opportunity to get a good player, then you've got to take it. We need a right back. And if we get a right back who can play up and down, then you can have like an inside right on the right hand side with a right back. I get what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. You know, you could say, oh well, if that gets done, then it does leave an opportunity because you've brought someone in who plays in a similar position to Richarlison. But the manager's shown he likes I think he likes Richarlison as up front or off the striker. But we'll wait and see. As I said, I've been pretty consistent. I wouldn't be selling Richarlison. Ryan says City are trying to push Sterling out the door just to give Ronaldo the number 7 shirt. I said this last night when Sterling, it said Sterling would be available. I was like, that's just for the number 7 shirt. Rob, Rangers are £11 million in debt to clubs that they owe money to. They're not in massive financial situation, but they are £11 million. And I know that's not a hell of a lot of money, but when you've been in a situation Rangers have been in, they, you know, if an offer comes in that would for a player who's not playing, that could satisfy a part of the money they owe out, then, you know, and they've got to be very careful, Rangers, after the last few years they've had. So that's what I was talking about. Steve says Riola looking for £828,000 per week for Haaland, I've just read, and he might get it. Keith says Chelsea spend more than Rangers than Arsenal this window, but brought in 119 million already, and 5 more outgoings will make it profitable summer. That's the way they do it, isn't it? That's just the way they do it. Brilliant. They're brilliant. Keith says no kid from Rangers, go get Dallas. Well, Dallas might be going to Germany, I think. Kevin says Diaz bedding in for a season in the Prem with the intent of selling Richarlison makes a lot more sense if Hammers helps the deal even more. So yeah, that makes sense. You want a player to have a bedding in season, and if he has a bedding in season and does well, and then we let Richarlison go, then that makes sense to me. But letting one go out the door as one comes in doesn't make any sense because obviously he's going to need time to bed in. Since Leighton Skills says, have you seen the interview with Bessage? Our training staff messed up his career because they've put too much muscle on him and he kept on getting injured. No, I've not seen that. And which training staff? He's had about 5 different managers. Could be anyone. Drip says, do you think Nkunku could move to right? No, he couldn't move to right. Oh, I've got to finish. I've just got to stop the comment right there. You can't defend at left back, never mind right back. Yeah, David Luiz, that's not the greatest shout in the world. You've got to say that. I've got to say he was terrible for 2 years at Arsenal. Saying that just the ones on the Martinez. Well, that doesn't surprise me because Martinez ruined James McCarthy's career as well by playing him against Wolfsburg when he was told by Danny Donachie, who later resigned from the club. Just saying. Since Leighton Skills has thoughts on Rondon, I like Rondon. I really do like him as a backup player. I think he'd be an ideal backup player. Got experience, similar to Dom in the way he plays. So I'd get him as a backup. Steve Collins says, don't care if we sell Richie or Dom Ped. To be honest, players come and go. You just don't have the faith in those in the clubs to find replacements that we need to become the Seville of the Premier League. We won't become the Seville. That's Leicester. I do care if we sell these players. I do care if we play because they're good players. So I do care. But you've got to have a succession plan. We're definitely not in for Jack Wilshere. You've got to have a succession plan. You've got to sell them on your terms. You know, that's the way you do it, isn't it? Look at what Villa did. They sold and they brought 3 players in and they made a bit of money. So, but you got to remember, like it does matter to people, like someone like Richarlison. Kids love him. He's a hero, and just if he just goes in the last few days. I know it's happened before. It's happened to all of us. We all lost our heroes. Everyone's lost their heroes, footballing wise. And I'm not saying, it will happen at some point, but it has to be on our terms. It has to be Everton have to bring in three players or something, and then they let him go, and they do it on their terms, and they make a little bit of money, and everyone's happy. The problem is Everton never seem to get it right. When they sold Lukaku, they brought in Dross. When they got rid of Ghana, I know it wasn't quite their fault. Gabama come in, but they played him straight away, and then he gets an injury straight off the back of playing in the African nations. What you've got to do is you've got to, for me, and this is what I liked about the comment before about Diaz is you've got to bring players in a season before. You've got to bring players in a season before. Let them bed in. Let them bed in with the person they're going to replace, and then you sell that person on. And that's where someone like Diaz could be good, where you'll bring him in for a year, let them bed into the Premier League, get used to it, and then they replace someone like Richarlison. That's the way I'd look. That's the way I'd look at it anyway, personally. Daniel says, I know Rafa said otherwise, but I think if the offer is big enough, we'll let Richarlison go, no matter how damage is in the short term. Most I could see is losing Dominic Calvert-Lewin next summer. Well, but you've got to think about if it's gonna be damaging, haven't you? Money does talk. I appreciate that, but getting rid of someone like Richarlison and not getting in someone to replace his goals, and that's what we're talking about here. Forget about the name, forget about everything else. His goals, his assists. If you don't have someone to replace them, then you're in trouble. We're a team that already doesn't have enough goals in us. We struggled for goals. We've already lost some with a couple of with Hammers going off the team. And we've lost other players with goals in them. You've got to replace them. That's the way you got to look at it. You've got to replace the goals and the assists. And we finished 10th last season. So if we lose more goals, stands to reason we're going to win less games, get less points, and finish further down the table. Yeah. Winston says Kean and Gabama to go on freeze event. Why? Why do people think like this? Why do people think like this? Kean's going to Juventus, and Gabama has been out for 2 years. Give the lad a chance to get back. Why do people always think in such negative terms? Give the lad a chance. He's played one game in 2 years. Give the lad a chance. Honest to God. It's like YouTube is the place where people unleash all their negative thoughts. It's mad. Ed says Yannick Blassie cost the same as Ronaldo. Did he? But Winston, why would their contracts run out? Moise Kean is going to Juventus by the looks of it. Why would his contract run out? Honest to God. Why would Everton let his contract run out if he doesn't go? Mad. People just have some... Yeah. Tony says get Leon Balogun from Rangers. He'll bring much needed calmness at the back. Yeah, okay. Tom says Rondon or Maupay. Rondon, he's free and he'd be a backup. Maupay's like, he's alright, but Steve says Jack Wilshere, the NHS is under enough pressure. Steve says, did we get 5 million from Southampton when they signed Thierry Small? It's going to a tribunal, isn't it? There's me mug there, look. Iron Man. There you go. Bit of Iron Man. There you go. Thomas says, who's the closest replacement to Richie out there for 80 million? But we're not going to spend 80 million out. We're not going to spend 80 million. If we got 80 million for Richarlison, we wouldn't be spending 80 million. Not on one player. Stephen says, if Richarlison got a buyout clause, if Spurs can keep hold of Kean, Everton has shown a lack of strength. I'm going, Everton haven't sold anyone yet. In fact, the manager's come out today and said they're not selling him. So let's not jump into that, we haven't got a backbone when we've said today we're not selling him. Richarlison, I don't think, has got a buyout. And he'll have a fee. Kean, Spurs had a fee for Kean. City didn't meet that. I'm sure Everton will have a fee for Richarlison, and it'll be. We'll have to just see what happens. Whether they throw a mad bid in for him. But would have to be a mad bid because Everton there's a sell-on fee as well. So, sorry. Someone just saying Taverna from Rangers, who's what, 30? Is he 30, Taverna? Yeah, 49 million for Taverna's 29. I mean, come on, please. If you're gonna put terrible shouts in, do some research. Hugh McDonald says, "Do we need a backup left back if Nkunku goes on loan?" Well, there's no indication that he is going on loan. But if he went on loan, we probably would need a backup left back. There you go. People just seem to want to just bring in players who are available rather than actually quality players. Isn't that what got us in this mess in the first place? Is just bringing in average players who are available. Isn't it all about bringing in quality? Isn't that what we've got to start trying to do? And not selling quality? Richie says, iPad, it would be a disaster to sell Richie. I honestly believe he loves it here. It's early only down to the player these days. That convinced me that he will stay. I don't think it is down to the player. I think Harry Kane wanted to go to Manchester City, but they wouldn't let him. It's down to the fee. Simple as that. Not so purple. He says, do you just think it's Everton fans that are just fans that have such a negative section of supporters, or do you think they just see that because it's Everton and every club is similar? I think every club has a similar group of fans. I think everyone does. And they are attracted to the internet. So I would take Rondon on a free as a backup striker and nothing more. I'd give him a year or 2 year contract if that, just as a backup. And that would only be like if Moise Kean went, just as a backup. We've seen it with them. Man United brought in Tingo, didn't he? The lad from China, and he did sound for like a year. Rondon did well at Newcastle. I think he'd be a good backup for Dom because he's a similar kind of player. And the other night when we had Moise Kean, you could see they were different. Sin Lane Skills says 13-14 Everton or 7-8 Everton, which is better. I think 7-8. I think 7-8 was a brilliant Everton team and deserved more. It was a really good Everton team. Yeah, Lozano's not coming, mate. He's in Napoli, I think. Well, he was last time I looked. And they've got Leicester, haven't they? Sin Leighton Skills says backups need to make an instant impact like Giroud. Kean is young but not good enough. So it's fine if they're old and effective. It is if they're like available for a year. Kevin says Kean agreed his contract now and wants to stick. He has to stick with it. You're absolutely right, and he'll never leave. EFC forever, Ped. My lad Georgie just wrote that to see your reaction. I can't. Which question? What question did he ask? Sorry, there's too many names, mate. Sean says, if you can't get a right back, sacrificing Godfrey and playing him there. No, it wouldn't be okay. No. Godfrey's our centre-back. Godfrey is our centre-back. Along Mina. Don't start messing about with our best players. Leave our best players in their position. Just, that's what we need to do. Leave our best players in their positions, and then the other positions will have to be filled in by other players. But don't start moving your best players out of position to accommodate others. Simple as that. If we desperately need a right back, I'd put Holgate there, but I wouldn't put Godfrey there. He's a centre back now. Eric says, do you think Josh King was a waste of a signing? No. Because we needed a backup. And we got him, and the manager didn't really want him, but he got him. Dr. Lynn says, hi, Richarlison is as good as before anymore. I don't even understand what that means. Hugh says, right back has got to be the priority over anything. Seamus isn't great anymore, even when he's fit. Yes. Bombastic says, your thoughts on James Rodriguez situation? It's time for him to go, I think. Manager doesn't want him. He doesn't really seem arsed either, so hopefully he goes, and wherever he goes, he's happy. And that's it. And we move on. It's a shame, but we've started the season without him, and you just get on with things, don't you? Everton have never utilised them, apart from going to Florida on tour. So I did EFC Forever. Didn't see about Jack Colback, to be honest, mate. I don't think he even read that. Ed says, sounds harsh, but do you think Diaz is too good for us? No, because I think he's the kind of player that would come in and maybe 2 years and then try and move up to the next level. And they're the kind of players we need to start bringing in. Players you can bring in and then make a profit on, and they go up the ladder. Trevor says, then they... that's the second part of a question. I don't know where the first part is. Richarlison is performing, though. He was a bit off last season because there was no fans in the ground, I think. But he started the season really well. Richarlison is such an important player for Everton. He links the midfield with the forward line. He's such an important, busy player. The champion Bruce says, do you think Gray could be the replacement for Richarlison? No. Think he could turn in a goal scorer? No. I just don't. He's a winger. Richarlison's like a number 10, come striker, come winger. He's got a bit of everything and works his arse off. Drip says, obviously right back should be our priority right now, but who could we realistically target this late in the window? Well, it's not about targeting, it's about having targets. Everton have had players scouted, they've missed out on players like Dumfries, but they'll have a list. It's just whether they have the money. There'll be players out there. There's good players everywhere. We see them every year coming into the Premier League, and then we go, how did we miss out on him? Or how did no one get him? There's one playing for Brighton tomorrow, centre midfield. So, yeah. Why would we sign another left winger with Richarlison, Gray, Iwobi? Well, I don't think Iwobi is a left winger, and I also don't think Richarlison's a left winger. So, that's maybe why. Terry says that's what Brands did in Holland. Mashiri bought him in to do similar. Streaker says, do you think Rafa is brought in for long term or short term? Well, he's been brought in for 3 years, hasn't he? Sean says, would like Reina from Dortmund? Yeah, it's never happened. It's never happening, is it? He's a young player who will find his way to a top club. He's at a top club already, isn't he? Playing Champions League football. Glenn says, Ped, we dug our own FFP hole with some crazy new money buys. Agree it won't be 80 million for one of our players. Market for some time. We need to rebuild the squad with 3 or 4 players for 80 million. No, listen, I absolutely agree, Glenn. I absolutely agree. We wasted a lot of money. And we are where we are because of us. Not because of anyone else. Because of us, right? Right? And I know 80 million's a lot of money, and I agree that it would sort us out. But with only 5 days of the transfer window left, and the season already started, I don't think it's acceptable to sell one of your 2 best players with 5 days left. Next summer, I'd take the money for him. Okay, we might take less, but right now I don't feel like it's the right time, because whoever comes in would have to be on it straight from the start and wouldn't get that opportunity to bed into the Premier League. Whereas if you bring someone in now, like someone mentioned before, like Diaz, and they have all season to bed in, and then next season Richarlison goes and that's basically the replacement, that works for me. But not this close to the window closing, and while you're trying to build a squad. So I appreciate that Richarlison will go. I appreciate that Dominic Calvert-Lewin will go. But they have to go on our terms. They have to go so that we are ready and we're prepared, and we've already spent the money on good players. So that's the way I look at it anyway. People might have different opinions, but that's the way I look at it. I know 80 million is a lot of money, and you go, oh, we could do this and we do that. Do we have time to do that? Do we have time to get the players we want? Would those players have time to bed in? There's a lot of football happening very quickly. Mathew says, why didn't Brands keep the USA connection? Got to be at least one player. I mean, it's not his job to, it's not his job to do that though, is it really? It's not really his job to do that. That's up to the club if they've got a strategy and they want to do that. I'll do the last couple. Trevor says Premier League clubs don't have the balls to buy on pure scouting opinion, which is what Dutch, Portuguese, and French clubs do. Then get the pants pulled down in 2 years' time for the same players. Some do. Some have been doing that. The likes of Leicester, I think, are doing that. So we'll wait and see. Everton don't, clearly. So you're absolutely right on that score. Everton don't. Now, hopefully, it looks like it's going to be a busy day Tuesday for a lot of teams, especially if Man United are coming in for Ronaldo. That's going to make it very interesting. Terry, I've heard nothing about Sean Longstaff, to be honest. And Richie says, Kean wanted to go. Richie, I don't believe that. But you're saying you don't believe. You don't actually know, do you? Ultimately, if someone like Paris Saint-Germain come calling, you get to play with your mate Neymar, it might turn your head a little bit, mightn't it? It might make you think, I might want to go there. Yeah, it's gonna be busy. Busy few days, isn't it? Transfer wise, it's gonna be crazy all over. Especially if a couple of big deals do happen. If a couple and then the dominoes start falling. Hopefully we're not one of those dominoes, obviously with Richarlison, but we'll see what happens. Listen, football is when you're where we are in the pecking order and you have a good player and, someone's going to come calling for him. But as I keep saying, for me, I would not sell, unless we're in control of the situation. And I don't think with 5 days to go of the transfer, you can control that situation. Unless they've got players absolutely already lined up. But this is Everton. Do we really feel like they have got that? I don't know. Listen, I'll be back at 5 o'clock with the patrons. If you're on Patreon, I'll be back at 5 o'clock. Yeah. There you go. Make sure you check out the match preview. There's an opponent's match preview over on Patreon. I'm going to do the Start 11 show as well. And the Everton News Daily later on. There you go. Thank you for watching. I'll see you all later.